Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, today's episode. Well, it's probably about 30 odd degrees outside. It's probably about 35 in the shop today, as we don't have air conditioning. So, what better day to pick to do peated whiskies again? I mean, never one for the convention, me. So, what are we going to do? I've been meaning to do this particular tasting, as you can see, Kilchoman, and I've been meaning to do this for quite a while. As you can see, the spring 2011 is pretty much all gone. I've been quite enjoying that, it has to be said. Likewise with the sherry cask, but so I thought, yes, it's about time I did that before there's not even a dribble left in the bottle. So let's start with a bit of waffle then, shall we? Kilchoman, it's a new kid on the block. It's the most recently built distillery in that it started production in 2005. It was the brainchild of some chap called Anthony Wills, and Kilchoman itself is a farm that is located a few miles to the northwest of Bruichladdich, and quite picturesque it is too, looking at the pictures. Not that I haven't had the opportunity to visit it yet, but no doubt at some stage I probably will. The interesting thing about Kilchoman is that it has its own floor maltings. For a relatively small distillery, that's quite impressive, and about a third of its barley is sourced from fields surrounding the distillery. So I believe they did a bottling called Islay barley or something of that ilk, which I did taste, and obviously you can read the tasting note on that one on my WordPress blog. And so it's quite unique. It's definitely sort of settled in the bosom of Islay, shall we say? So the peat that not the peat, the barley that they use, that they produce themselves, is peated to around about 20 to 25 parts per million. Spends about sort of 10 hours, I believe, over the peat, which is then followed by a further air drying of around about 30 to 60 odd hours. The peated barley that they buy in is slightly higher peating levels, and it's peated to about 50 parts per million, similar sort of peating level to Lefroy and Ardbeg. So we're expecting a reasonable amount of phenolics and a reasonable punchy peat character. So we'll see, obviously, when we start tasting them. Cask wise, they use about 80% refill and first fill American oak, and about 20% of fresh Oloroso casks. Most of I'll obviously talk through the individual bottlings in a second, but so far they've made some interesting use of the Oloroso casks, and obviously the one here at the end, the sherry cask, is obviously pure Oloroso aged spirit. So I think that's enough waffling, and shall I introduce the lineup then? Right, okay, piece of paper in hand to make sure I get everything correct. Right, so first off we'll be starting with the spring 2011 release. This was released obviously in spring 2011, the name kind of gives the game away, doesn't it? And it is a blend of 3 and 4 year old spirit aged in both fresh and refill bourbon. Next up we have the 2006. This is obviously 5 years old. It was released in 2012 or 2011, tail end of 2011, and obviously, as you can see from the colour, aged completely in bourbon casks. Then we have this one. Well, actually, no, that was the wrong way round. That's the 2006. That's the Machir Bay. Now, the Machir Bay is quite an interesting whisky in that it's a blend of 3, 4 and 5 year old bourbon matured spirit, but the 4-year-old spirit is given an 8-week finishing in Oloroso. So the idea is it has a little bit of sherry character just to give it some richness. And that's that one, by the way, the Machir Bay. And finally, obviously, like I said, that's the 5-year-old sherry cask, which was released earlier this year. All are bottled at 46%, non-coloured and non-chill filtered, I believe. So let's make a start then. Right, okay, so this is the Spring 2011 bottling. Like I said, a blend of 3- and 4-year-old spirit. So let's see what the nose gives us then, shall we? Lovely, clean, fresh. It's quite citrusy. Some slightly medicinal peat, you know, quite herbal. An actual lot of herbal character now coming out. Give it some time. But it's got a lovely sort of barley sweetness, and it's you know, relatively phenolic. You can certainly feel the phenol sort of tickling the nose, but it's just got such a lovely fresh citrus seam running through it that just lifts the nose. A little bit of perfume now, white flowers. I mean, it's young. But you know, this is relatively complex for such a young malt. So, but yeah, it's obviously the peat that's taking centre stage here. It's nice. That's very, very nice. Okay, palate time. Quite full, a bit denser and a bit richer, fuller than you would expect on the nose. Oak kind of up first, as you would expect, but it's got a nice sweetness to it. Progresses through some quite fleshy apricot and yellow fruits, and then back comes the oak again. It does kind of quite bit at the end. But it's kind of wrapped up with this sort of slightly earthy, slightly medicinal peat character. It has a real punch. I mean, that's a serious wake-up dram, it has to be said. I mean, I wouldn't call it a peat monster by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, it's pleasantly peated. It's got a fair amount, but it's the youthfulness that gives it that sort of that punch. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's got a lovely aftertaste again. You could argue, I suppose, that it's a little bit one-dimensional, that the emphasis obviously is all on the peat, but you know, I think that would be doing it a little bit of a disservice. There's certainly, you know, some barley and some fruit, and although it does, like I said, bitter a bit at the end, it packs a punch. That's good. Right, okay, Machir Bay next. This is, like I said, this is again another vatting of different aged malts, 3, 4 and 5 to be precise. And just checking my notes again, and like I said, the 4-year-old spirit gets you know, a splash in the sherry cask. So we're not expecting a huge amount of sherry pyrotechnics, should we say, but it'll be interesting to see what that, you know, short amount of time actually does to the spirit. So let's put my nose in the glass. Well, that's oilier, more noticeable oak, but oh my god, that's just got such a beautiful juicy orange fruit character, and that sherry is just on the edge of it, just giving it a little bit of perfume, a little bit of dried fruit, and a little bit of sweetness. Not as pungently peated, or certainly doesn't seem as pungently peated as the Spring 2011. I would guess that's probably due to a little bit more sort of oak character creeping in. But again, it's got a lovely perfume note coming out. Sort of slightly floral, white flowers. There's a little bit of medicinal, a little bit of coastal character, but a lot denser, a lot broader, which is obviously the oak coming into play. But yeah, again, a lovely nose. Really distinctive and quite individual, it has to be said. A little bit of charred oak, but definitely, it's certainly, quality-wise stunning, and like I said, very, very distinctive palate. Oh, that's smooth and soft. That oak has rounded out the spirit. It gives it a clean, creamy sheen to it. Oh, that is good. That is lovely. Herbal peat, slightly medicinal, bit of earth, plenty of herbs. Oh, aftertaste is gorgeous. It really is long. It's elegant. It is really very, very elegant for an Islay. And again, it's not a peat monster. You can feel the peat kind of sitting here right at the top of your teeth after you swill it around your mouth. A little bit of salt, not as much bittering oak as you would expect from the extra aging in wood. In actual fact, the Spring 2011 is probably a little bit more bitter. Maybe it's a little bit more use of first fill bourbon casks to give it that nice creamy character. But oh, that is lovely. Slightly orangey now. That orange note is now just showing slightly on the finish. But oh yeah, I like that. That is spectacularly good. Very, very nice. Right, okay, on to the 2006 vintage. Like I said, this is 5-year-old spirit, completely aged in American oak. So let's see what the nose on this gives us then, shall we? Now we're kind of gone back to the spring 2011 kind of nose. A lot fresher, and that sort of light citrus lemony note has kind of come back. Obviously the use of even just a small amount of sherry cask has kind of blanketed that slight sort of citrus note. Again, wonderfully fresh, more briny, more ozony now. Probably nothing to do with the age of it, but just the way the spirit has matured. Lots of sugar flecked barley, gentle peat. Again, sort of like I'm starting to get some of that lovely lush orange. That is really deep. This is really good. I mean, for 5 years old, it's not the most complex of whiskies, but for just pure enjoyment's sake, this is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, getting a little bit more herbal now. Not so much of the floral notes that the other two bottlings had, which is quite interesting. But that citrus note, it's just freshens it. Ooh, getting a bit of manure now. Nothing like a bit of Islay manure, is there? Okay, palate time. Where do I start? Well, the oak is more toffeed, caramelly, you know, smoother, rounder. There's a lot of peat there. I mean, you know, from the nose it was all quite gently peated, but on the palate, there's a lot of peat. Really smoky, really intense. In actual fact, it doesn't let an awful lot more out. It is very, very smoky and very, very dominating. There's a bit of barley, a bit of fruit, a little bit of burnt wood. Again, no real bitterness on the finish. You know, fantastically smooth, but quite surprising. And you know, I didn't expect that from just nosing it. But you know, another really, really good quality malt. I mean, it just shows that the spirit that Kilchoman is producing is absolutely fantastic. I really like that. Right, and finally the sherry cask. So it's actually quite light for something that spent 5 years in first fill Oloroso. I mean, you would expect this to be sort of as black as your hat, and just a wash with sherry aromas and character. So let's see if that is the case then, shall we? Now that's fishy. That's briny, phenolic, fishy. That's got a gorgeous sweetness. Yeah, there's some lovely dried fruit. Yep. I mean, obviously the sherry cask is having an influence, but it's not having as much of an overpowering influence as you would expect. Gently spicy and smoky. Getting a bit creamy now. That's really nice. I mean, that's certainly not overdone. Like I was saying, that citrus, crisp, lemony sort of note seems to have disappeared. Obviously, the sherry cask has kind of blanketed that, as we saw on the Machir Bay, but. That is lovely. I mean, that is a classic Islay. That's a classic fishy old Islay. I mean, I've come across some Bamors that have displayed this kind of character in the past. Slight rubberiness. Sort of, fisherman's sou'westers, that kind of thing. But clean, so clean. I mean, hats off to the distillery for their cask selection. I mean, not an inkling of sulphur. So nice one, guys. Quite spicy, like I said. A little bit of burnt wood. No real perfume, but it's getting a bit of a kind of burnt caramel sort of edginess to it now that I often find with some sherry aged malts. But yeah, really nice. It's about time. That's a smoke monster. Gritty peat smoke. Phenolic, medicinal, a little bit of the Lefroy TCP creeping in. Oh, that is nice. That again, bit of wood tannin, bit of licorice. Nothing too outrageous. Oh, that's good. That's chewy. That's really, really chewy. Really dense. Very long and very, very intense. Cherry cask is giving some dried fruit, like I said. It's giving a little bit of tannin, a little bit of licorice, but on the whole, that is stunningly good. For 5 years in a sherry cask, you know, you'd expected the sherry cask to obliterate that spirit, but my God, that spirit's got some guts and some smokiness as well. Oh yeah, like that very much. Right, okay, shall we sum these up? Kilchoman might be new, but by God, it's good. You know, you like your peaty malts, you like the Freud, you like Ardbeg, then you know you have to try this. I mean, this spirit is absolutely gorgeous, amazingly good. So what have we found out? Well, in bourbon cask, obviously, it has, you know, a lovely sort of lemony, sort of citrusy, crisp character to it. The sherry, when used, has obviously sort of dampened that over, but it certainly doesn't mask the character of the malt in any way, shape, or form. I think basically the sherry cask and obviously the 2006 may well have had a little bit more bought in malt used. They seem to be a lot more peatier on the palate than the Machir Bay and the spring 2011 release. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's nice to have a bit of diversity, it has to be said. But you know, like I said, the one thing you can be sure of, you know, the quality is absolutely fantastic. And they're not expensive. I mean, you know, currently we have the 2006 and the Machir Bay in stock and available on our website, www.gauntleys.com. And they're about 40 odd quid, you know, so, you know, they're not expensive, you know, and they are definitely worth trying. And like I said, you know, if you've had Lefroy, you've had Cole Ely, you've had Ardbeg, you've had all the other peaty ones, and you've not had Kilchoman, then you really should try it. It is, you know, fantastically good spirit, and you know, I love it. What can you say, you know? So if you'd like to have a look at my tasting notes on all of these, they're obviously on my WordPress blog. Like I was saying, you know, both the 2006 and the Machir Bay are available to purchase on our website. Unfortunately, the spring 2011 has long since gone, as has the sherry cask. Why is that, you ask? Well, it's just purely down to size. Apparently, on site they have warehousing for about 600 casks. So, although they're not exactly limited editions, they're going to turn over fairly quick. So, all I can say is whenever a new one comes out, and if you're, you know, into what the distillery is doing, then grab it quick before it goes. I mean, the Kilchoman sherry cask, I think I managed to get hold of about half dozen bottles, and that was about it. So there you have it, Kilchoman. You know, wonderful distillery. You know, the new kid on the block, certainly making some noise, certainly using some peat. Go buy it. That's all I can say. But as usual, I hope you enjoyed watching the show. I hope this will at least tempt you to try the spirit from Kilchoman. And all that's left to say is good evening and good ramming. And I can get out of this rather hot shop. Yeah. Can I have an amen for that?
Definitely. Got them both rolling.
Okay, cool. Get it in stereo.
Yeah. 3D.
Yeah, 3D. Yeah, that'd be scary. Coming at you.